So let's take a look at exporting our PopCan out and bringing it into Unity. So I'm going to go and do a file, export all, and actually I want to fix something. Notice that my can is called P cylinder, and I also have some stuff in here. So I want to go to edit, delete all by type, non-deformer history. If you delete the other type of history, what will happen is you'll break the connection to the animation. So that would keep our skin cluster on there, which is what we want. So let's also rename this from P cylinder 1 to PopCan, or I'm just going to name mine Cano because that's the name of my character. And file, export all, and I want to do an FBX export. If you don't see FBX in there, go to Windows, Settings and Preferences, Plugin Manager, and look for FBX to Maya. It's located somewhere in the middle. We'll find it in a second. There it is. FBX Maya, and you want to check loaded and auto loaded so that it always is loaded every time you come back in. So let's try that again. File, export all. And in my desktop PopCan folder, I have an FBX here called, and I'm going to name it Cano. Now, yours might look like this. So we want to turn on a few things when we go to export our FBX. We want to expand include, go to animation and turn on animations. We want to bake in the animation into our model from frame 0 to 120. And we also want the textures to get carried over when we bring our model in. And the way to do that is to make sure embed media is on under embed media. So I'm going to go ahead and hit export all. I'm going to pause the video and open Unity. Alright, so back in Unity, I'm going to click on my assets folder. And inside of here, I'm going to create a folder called models. In that models folder, I'm going to right click and create another folder, and I'm going to call that characters. And then in this folder, I'm going to right click and I'm going to create another folder. I'm going to call it PC for playable character. So I'm going to right click on this playable character folder and I'm going to go to import new asset. And I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to go to my PopCan here and select that Cano FBX and hit import. And there's my Cano. Now, if I drag this into, well, let's actually go to our scenes level 10 house. I'm going to hit save my main menu. I'm going to delete out my sphere here. And then let's see, underscore game master. I don't think I need this in this scene either. That's what's loading it from my front scene. So that's probably why we were getting duplicates. I'm gonna go to my playable character folder here. I'm gonna drag Cano in. So a couple things. One, he's way too tiny. So I want to select my can here, back in my thing here, and I want to make sure that my scale factor is set to 1 and I want to uncheck convert units and I'm going to hit apply. Now you can see I have a pretty healthy sized can. I'm going to go to game object, 3D object plane. And you can see because it's a little bit bigger we get a nice clean shadow there too. Now the first thing that comes to mind is you're like, well, I thought if we check embed media that we'd actually see our texture. Well, back in this PC folder here, we have to make sure we go to materials and then use external materials and I'm going to hit apply. And once I do that, you'll see it's going to import in my can textures. You can see there it is. Go to animations and let's make sure from 0 to 120 that our animations are working, right? So I'm going to press play on there and you can see, yep, there's my walk, my attack, my jump, and my death, all right? So we're going to have to break those up into different animations later. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. The next thing I want to do is create something called a prefab. And what that allows us to do is it'll create sort of a reference to our model with anything else we attach, which could be a script or whatever. So in this assets folder here, I'm going to right click, I'm going to create another folder, and I'm going to call it prefabs. And within this prefabs folder, I'm just going to grab this can model and drop it in there. And then I'm going to create an original prefab. This is actually, like I said, this is a duplicate. It's not our actual can model. This is our can model. This prefab model is something that we're going to, again, be attaching scripts to, and it refers to the character in our scene. So let's go ahead and take a look at just setting up, you know what, I think this would be, let's do one more thing before we exit. So inside of my model, that PC folder, this Cano, I'm going to create a new folder in here and I'm going to call it Cano. Because say we have multiple characters that we want to put in our game. So I'm going to drag and drop this in there. So we have a Cano and then a Cano 2 or whatever. So inside this Cano folder, I also want to right click in here and create something called um, a animator controller. So that's down here, animator controller. And I'm going to name this Cano controller. And on this Cano model here, it automatically has an animator component. I'm just going to drag and drop this in there. All right. I think that's good for now. In the next video, we'll actually start scripting the movement of our can.